So the last topic, I guess we're gonna end on this serious note. It's a pretty interesting. We've talked about this before, but let's see if we have anything new to say. It's the idea of being blissfully ignorant versus legitimately being an observer and learning about the world around us. That can bring you to kind of sometimes realize that the world is not a great place. You know, we read all these things, for example, the pandemic, or being living in the U.S. while Donald Trump is president, even if it hasn't affected us directly. Hearing about all this or listening to all this, sometimes I think all of us, even especially during quarantine, have shared thoughts of, man, what the fuck's going on, right? Why am I even paying attention to this? I've had spurts where I just can't look at the news. Like, I actively can't do it. I can't look on Instagram. I can't look on, Twitter, just because of everything that's going on. Because I know I'm gonna get depressed. So the argument here, or the question here, is: would you rather not know and be happy, or know and understand what you're actually, I guess, absorbing? Which one's better, in your own opinion? This is pretty much subjective. There's no right or wrong answer here. Anyone?
Well,
Oh,
I think being blissfully ignorant is nice in the moment,
Hmm.
but in order to create a better future, you would have to be woke. So then
Understood.
you could actively make
yeah.
changes. I think it's important to note that some people are lucky enough to be able to choose between the two, and others are just forced into like a shitty situation where
Sure.
they can't be blissfully ignorant. Like I'm
Which
not
that's
like a
contextually
big
true,
black
right?
man. What?
That would be like contextually true in terms of like
Yeah.
whether or not you want to know versus you kind of have to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah. Like if I was like a big black man that went on a run, right? I would be more likely to be stopped than right now because I'm a small 5'4", like very. I mean, comparatively to a big black man, I'm very small. I'm not seen as a threat, right? So I'm not usually bothered. But you do hear stories all the time of joggers being stopped just because they're black and they fit the description, which is literally just gray or black or like one of those colors that are common running attire.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's just I just wanted to throw that in there before we continued.
I mean, for me at least, like, yeah,
But that's just my take.
I try my best to understand or know about what's going on, whether
Mhm.
that's in the world, in my own personal life, understand the situations that we're in, and the situations that everyone else is in, and try my best to be this well-rounded person. Sometimes it can get overwhelming. I think most of us can agree where sometimes you just kind of want to roll up into this ball and don't talk to anyone and just hope all your problems go away
But
when
yeah,
Yeah.
you're not really doing anything outside of just waiting until the next day to deal with them. Some days you have the strength to do it, some days you just don't. It's impossible to choose between the two. It's just a balance of what you are willing to take and learn from. I have this idea of, and I've said this before, is always look to be a better person. Always look to be like a self improvement, right? Whether that means going to the gym, whether that means, making your own mental state better, whatever that takes, do that. Now, sometimes there'll be like certain problems. I mean, I know we all were affected by this, where there were many stories of sexual assault coming out, right? And I remember having many conversations with Tamid about how, man, how the hell have we not seen this? Or how the hell is all this happening now? How the hell is this even possible? And every single time I looked at something, I would just get obscenely depressed, you know? And so,
I think
Yeah.
without a doubt it's one of those things where it's like it's when it comes to would you rather know, would you not?
mm,
It's an issue of even if you decide not to know,
mhm.
it's still true,
Yes.
right? So at least like my own personal outlook is, all right, if this is happening, I might as well know,
Yes.
right?
Mm,
And that's applicable to both, like, unfortunately how messy politics are right now, to things like you mentioned before about sort of all the allegations that came out just a couple months ago, right? Because hey, if
Stories.
as much as it would be easy to just sort of turn my phone off or just
Yeah.
do something else and not read everything that's going on,
Yeah.
all of that is happening, and all of that is still true and still affecting, if not myself, then the people around me at minimum,
Yeah,
right?
with that situation specifically, it was so close to home, like meaning
Mhm.
like affecting our community, right, and affecting the women in our community. That where we should know. There are certain things where you should know, and there's certain things that you should talk about, and obviously that was one of them. Now the question, I guess, is to what degree? You know what I'm saying? To what degree? In general, I'm not talking about that specific situation. To
Right,
what
right.
degree do you believe that sometimes we've been talking about this recently, and we'll talk about this actually soon about the social dilemma. How connected should we actually be? Should we always be connected? Should we always be observing all this information? And I think our generation is statistically the most depressed of all time, like from the data that we have,
I've heard that,
Right.
yeah.
right? Is that partially
I
due
also
to
don't blame them for being
right
depressed.
right partially due to the amount of information that we are absorbing, and yes, there's positivity, but there's so much negative, not just from news, not just from like events, but bro, just being trolled on the internet,
Right.
by like this toxic, like, I mean, growing up as as a guy, the toxic masculinity that you're around if you're in a group of boys, in a lot of situations, especially in high school, right, where if you're not that type of guy, you're kind of outcasted, right? Or
Hmm.
unless you find a group of friends, well, luckily enough, I believe I was able to do in high school, that accept you for not being a dickhead. You know what I'm saying? Uh, and you just end up being like, just fall into the shell, or you become one of those types of people. You know?
Right. I mean, I guess it really just comes back to, as far as addressing your question of how much do you want to know, or how much do you want to not be ignorant.
Mm.
It just sort of comes down to what's healthiest for you, right? Because that's different for everyone. Um, and the healthy part isn't just sort of like, how do I put this? If you know a lot and it's all just bad news, like recently how the news has been,
Mm.
it's very emotionally draining, right?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, if you're sitting there and you're actively, trying to ignore it, that's also not the healthiest outlook for you. So it's just, I guess, trying to find some sort of that middle balance. Although sometimes that feels hard to find when there's just so
Yeah.
much bad news out there.
Yeah. There's just so much bad news. So, try to balance it, I guess, is the crux of
Yeah,
the
like
issue.
Nikki, I
Mm.
think you hit the nail on the head before when you said that that you care about what hits home.
Mhm.
I feel like it's really hard to care about everything, so we probably just pick and choose. Like, obviously we care about COVID the most in terms of social or like health issues.
Mhm.
I really don't think like any of us even know or care about like maybe starving people all the way on the other side of the
Yep.
world, right? Like
Sure.
Nope.
it's really
Yeah.
hard to care about that because we just don't know them.
Hmm.
Like we don't know them. Like during COVID, a lot of I'm pretty sure we know people who were affected by it, and
Hmm.
or like maybe some of us even had a loss, like an extended loss or whatever. Um, but Black Lives Black Lives Matter. That was also like really that hit home for us too
Right.
because
Hmm.
honestly speaking, they kind of paved the way for people of color like us
Hmm.
to be accepted, to be like seen the way we are rather than subhuman.
Hmm.
Um, so at this point, we felt like we had to support them. Um, but yeah, like I don't know if I should say this, and I think we can cut this if it does not
52-6.
sound right.
52-7. Okay, go ahead.
Uh, I on my Instagram, there were a bunch of like ads about like donating money to some charities.
Mhm.
Maybe like I think it was Yemen, and then there were some other like impoverished countries. And I fucking started blocking those ads.
Mhm.
I started calling it irrelevant or like I see it too much or shit like that because I didn't give a fuck. And it just like and I mean I know I did give a fuck because it just kept making me sadder. right? But I
Yep.
couldn't care about another topic.
Yeah.
I think to sort of maybe hop in for a moment. What you're saying on the surface, I could see why you're worried about, like, should we cut this or should we not, right?
Yeah, like I feel fucked up
Because
saying it,
no,
but
no, no. But I think it's like it feels like a bad thing to say, but that's also because you want to care, but you're almost tired because there's always something to care about, right?
Yeah.
If it's not stuff close to home, like everything that's going on with BLM, or if it's not the constant barrage of bad news from what's happening domestically,
Yeah.
it could be the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, or it could
oh my
be
god, that
The
too.
Uyghurs,
the fact
the
that
Uyghur stuff that's going on.
right,
Yeah.
the
Am I
Uyghur
pronouncing that
stuff
right? The
in
Uyghur.
China,
Okay, I'm not
right?
pronouncing that right.
There's
Or
that's fine, but like there's always a constant barrage of these things, and I think the term that's most applicable here is compassion fatigue, right?
Yeah. Oh wow, that's a
That,
thing.
Wow.
you can Google if you like. That's actually a thing. Granted, it's probably
I
less
believe you.
applicable to people like you and me, but it is an actual thing of sort of just feeling burnt out by having to care about all these different things, right?
Yeah.
Now compassion fatigue, to be, for anyone who's listening that is more knowledgeable about this stuff, it's definitely more applicable to people who work in healthcare and, let's say, stuff like suicide hotlines and whatnot, right? But to a smaller extent, I would argue it's applicable to just the general population in that it's mentally draining for people to constantly have to deal with a torrent of calamity after crisis after problem, right? To the point where, as much as Pratik in this instant would definitely have cared about donating and responding to those advertisements, it's bouncing off of him simply because there's already other things taking up mental real estate in his head.
like
Yeah,
he
like
also
when
be,
I
like,
started seeing
desensitized
those
by it.
sorry, Rob, go ahead.
I was thinking like you also just end up becoming more desensitized by it because you just keep on seeing it and over and over again.
Yeah, I think that's a very well, no, it's not a very New York thing, but I think New Yorkers are more desensitized than other people.
Yeah.
Than the general public. I don't know,
I mean,
but
it might be a big city kind of thing.
Probably.
but yeah, it's probably a big city kind of thing. But also, what I wanted to say was like around the time when COVID was happening at its peak, and all of the ads were coming in. I also was talking to like some people, some of my the cases that I had at the home care, and I had to like, I had to, I was getting a bunch of calls about like patients dying, and these are like old patients,
Well,
which
yeah, I
I mean,
remember.
it doesn't make it any worse, but like it doesn't make it any better. Um, like I got calls about these patients that I would talk to, and a lot of them were really nice. I got to speak to all of them, like more some more than others. But then hearing that they died, I know they're not my family members, and I never like seen them or anything. But damn, that fucking sucks. And
Yeah.
then I think the worst one was when I had to tell one of their sons what a hospice was, because the hospital sent his father to a hospice, and he didn't know what that meant, and he asked me what that meant, and like I the best way I could tell him without outright the best way I could explain it to him without outright saying that he's likely gonna die, is that like that's where doc I forgot what I said. I think it was like that's where doctors send people when there's a lower chance for recovery.
Mhm.
And he was like, "What does that mean? What does that mean?" Right? Like, and he just
Yeah.
legitimately did not know what that meant.
Yeah.
And
Oh no.
holy shit, man! I think I skipped games that day,
Oh my.
or like, yeah, dude, like I just started blocking everything off, blocking the I think what most people call it is like sad porn or something, where it's just a bunch of ads asking
Oh.
you to help on
Oh.
everything.
Oh no.
I don't know if
Mm.
that's the right term, if that's fucked up or
By
not, or
all means,
if it
it's
is, I
right term
apologize.
No,
now.
I have heard
Jesus,
a term
man.
similar to that, but like advertisements is trying to pull at your heartstrings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God, dude, that's yeah. I don't think it's like possible to care about everything.
It's a rough topic, and
Yeah.
getting it, talking about it on the first episode is very interesting. We mentioned a lot of this before, but it's however much you can take. I when Tamid said the compassion fatigue, it's really pretty much that is. I don't
Yeah.
think any of us are legitimately, apathetic people. You know, I hope. I don't think many
Let's think
people.
so.
I really don't think many people are very apathetic. It's the sheer amount that you are exposed to negativity and just fucked up shit in the world. It's very difficult to even in your own mental state to like keep yourself in check. You know, and
Yeah.
I mean, this will probably go into the next episode of when we talk about the social dilemma. Uh, but do you guys think if we didn't have like our phones or our internet, that you'd generally be happier?
So
I
when
think
it comes
so.
to that question, I think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
But it's also, in my opinion, a worse answer, right? In
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it's one of those things where it's like, sure, you can pull up the stereotypical, yeah, the internet has brought us all together and whatnot. But I think more important than is like the way I look at it, and of course, if you guys disagree, please feel free, because I'm sure there are people who do,
Mm.
right?
Oh, don't worry, I
But
will.
sort of, great, always rely on you. Um, but the way I look at it is like, there's no reason you have to throw 100% of your emotional investment into every single issue that comes up, right? But at the same time, at least in my own head, I feel like it's important to at least be informed or aware of what's going on, right?
I agree with
Because
that.
these things are going on, and it's important to, at the bare minimum, to acknowledge what it is, right? And it's like there's nothing saying that you have to be invested in everything,
Mhm.
but there's also nothing saying that if you're invested in one, you have to be invested in the rest. If
That's
that
true.
if that distinction makes sense, right? Like if I were to clarify, I guess the best way to explain is like
Yep.
if you're out there protesting for BLM, right? You're throwing all of your emotional weight and investment into that cause, right?
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with you if you're simultaneously also not protesting for let's say for Palestinian rights, or let's say for the Uyghurs, right? You might support those things,
Mhm.
right? You might have standpoints on them, but if you're throwing all your emotional investment into one cause, there's nothing wrong with that, compared to, if someone were to say, why aren't you also saying this and that, right? It's just part of, you can still be informed, still be aware of what's going on, but at the same time, there's still just so much emotional like capacity we have to invest into everything around us.
And that's not even talking about your own personal issues. We haven't even talked about anything outside of your phone. It's not like whether it's family, friends, personal life, whatever that is. Especially during quarantine, so many people were not in a good state of mind. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I've spoken to many of my friends who, after graduating, none of us, getting your lives together, things like that, and even still trying to do that. Like, there's so much when it's so easy to access it, and I think a lot of it we're not even focusing on the good sides of it. The fact that we have all this during COVID to stay connected, for us to even be able to do, have this idea and start doing the podcast.
Yeah.
There are good sides to it. It's
Yeah.
I think we've covered a lot of what we really wanted to say, unless anyone has any other ideas.
I don't
Any-
immediately, but I also, if I'm perfectly honest,
Yeah.
don't want to end this on such a sort of downer of a note,
we don't need
right?
to.
But
I was
like you're
gonna
right
add
in
more down, but no.
what's up?
I was gonna add a sadder afterthought.
Oh, do you want to share that
Do it now.
anyways?
Do it now. Do it now.
We can end with something more
Okay, sure.
positive after
Yeah,
it
yeah,
said,
yeah.
after Pratik
We'll
dunks
talk
on the
about something
sadness.
fun afterwards. We'll talk about something fun right now.
Okay.
I think that like the stress that we are facing right now, some of the people who are like less fortunate than us have been just facing for like generations.
Of course, of
Oh,
course.
yeah.
I don't think
Right?
anyone is
And
saying like. Sorry. You
no, no,
finish.
no,
You
no, no.
finish.
Yeah. No, I'm not. No, I'm not saying that we were alluding to something else.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I'm like it's really hard to expect someone to like face all of this stress, go through like school, and like expect them to focus on it like perfectly well enough to actually come up. I can't imagine like maybe growing up in like a single parent household
Mhm.
where maybe you have like a brother and one parent maybe is like barely making ends meet, and they're stressed out after like maybe a shitty day at work, and maybe those shitty days at work are I'm fucking going on a tangent. Let's just skip this.
No. I think
go,
without
go,
just
go
sort
ahead.
of writing that off as rambling, I think the point being is that if we're talking about emotional capacity, there's only so much emotional like investment you can apply to other things when you already have like as Nikki mentioned, everything we've talked about is all irrelevant of our own personal lives, right? Of our own
yes,
relationships
You got me back
with
on topic.
friends,
Like-
family. Yeah, don't worry. I got you with the guy. I got you with the tag. Don't worry. That wasn't a
like,
bunch of useless
once-
rambling.
Devil.
once you reach your mental capacity or your threshold, I feel like if you're pushed beyond that, you just stop giving a fuck, or you
Oh, yeah.
kind of go crazy.
You kind of go
And you're
grounded.
not
Right.
you can't actually like go through life and handle it all, so you kind of like let some parts of
Yep.
some facets of your life just kind of fall. Maybe that's school, maybe that's social, maybe
Yeah.
that's your
Right.
health,
Something
right?
always
And
something could slip easily.
right, and then maybe one seeps into the other, both of those seep into the last, or I mean all of the other ones, and that's how you
Yeah,
fuck it all up.
I mean,
Gotta
it's
get
unfortunate,
drained
but
out.
it's
It's
sort
a
of the
climb.
big reason why, especially now, depression is like higher than it's been for a very long time.
I feel like depression, like the numbers weren't taken before. I think it's more. I think people are paying closer attention to it now. But I do agree, or maybe not. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if depression rates have been going up or not, but I feel like it's possible that it's stationary.
Maybe. I mean, we don't actually have the statistics.
Yeah, we don't.
You know,
And again, we are, disclaimer here,
Yeah.
we are still not doctors from the beginning of the podcast.
yeah, we're also not doctors.
True.
We're not, and we are also not saying that our problems are any bigger than anyone else's. We are simply trying to give our most objective view on this, no matter how subjective we actually have to be, because we are
This is
all
subjective
individuals.
as fuck. Here.
This is
We
subjective, but
all
we are
biased as
trying to
hell.
be. We are all trying to be objective here, in a topic where you really can't be objective. But besides the
Yeah.
point, I'd like to end this segment with a "it'd be like that sometimes." So
It'd be like that
it'd be like that sometimes.
It do.
It do be like that.
You know,
I mean, I
we
think-
should
I
have
think-
like something on the soundboard for this. Like,
yeah, I guess.
we,
It'd be
yeah,
like
Rocky
that.
just could just press it and it'd be like
It'd
that.
be like that sometimes.
Something like
We
that.
can easily get it
Okay.
be like
We'll
that
save
sometimes.
that for after the pilot
The
episode.
next,
yeah, we
the next, next episode then.
I mean,
If we're trying to be optimistic, like, should we? I don't know. Should we talk about, or should we ask each other? I don't know. This might get too mushy. So
Yeah.
please feel free to shoot me down.
yeah.
But like, should we talk about like something optimistic we're trying to work on or look forwards to for ourselves, or is that
Right now, or is
dumb?
that
I
every
don't know,
single
man.
time?
No, like the four of us. I don't know. Is that mushy?
Right now, I'm currently busting to meet's ass at this fitness competition, and he owes me money.
Ah.
So we out
Oh,
here,
yeah.
yeah, gang shit.
Well, I guess
Santi was
if
beating
I'm
all
gonna
of
be
us.
tagged in here real quick, I'm getting my ass busted, but I'm also looking forward to busting ass eventually. Look, man, it's
Why do you want to beat
COVID's
my
rough,
ass, bro? Why do
but
you
we're all trying to work out where we can.
want
It's
to
a
beat
rough
my
time.
ass so much, bro? What's good? Trying to say something?
All right, the hanky pankies for after the podcast.
Okay, okay, boys,
Oh my God.
secure the bag. All right, Rafi, anything you want to say?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been trying to like keep myself busy. Probably gonna start like a Udemy course on like data science or big data or something. Try to
Yeah.
like,
Nice.
you know, branch out.
Mm.
Find a job so I can,
Live.
do stuff, live my
Yeah,
life.
Fair,
yeah,
fair.
man.
Yeah.
Once COVID's better, hopefully the job markets
Yep.
the job markets get better too. Oh
Yep.
my god.
And
Finding
we-
a job is
we really don't care about what
Struggle.
Pratik has to say, right? Like, I can move on.
Yeah, we can move on. That was it. No, that was
no,
it.
go ahead. You can say whatever you want to say.
No,
but-
no,
But here
that-
I
that
thought we were
was
trying to be
literally
all
it.
healthy and positive.
No, we gotta add in our actual personalities here somewhere.
Fair. I think a whole
Okay.
lot of our personalities
Oh.
come out, especially in that last bit.